We have breaking news now from the Pentagon. CNN can now report that roughly 500 Marines are being mobilized in response to the protests in Los Angeles.
And this is a significant escalation from President Trump, who had activated National Guard troops over the weekend without Governor Gavin Newsom's consent. In this new move, active duty military members are being deployed as a show of force against U.S. citizens. CNN's Natasha Bertrand is live for us at the Pentagon. Natasha, what are you learning?
Well, Brianna, this is something that Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth had previewed over the weekend. He said that if necessary, he would deploy the Marines to Los Angeles to help federal agents with handling the protests there. And it appears now that these Marines, according to our sources, they have been mobilized. These 500 Marines, a full Marine battalion based out of 29 Palms, California, which is just outside San Bernardino, about an hour away from Los Angeles. They have been mobilized and they are gearing up to go and help ICE agents as well as other federal officials deal with these protests in Los Angeles. Importantly, they're going to be bolstering as well the National Guard, guardsmen and women who have been activated in Los Angeles by President Trump. But as you said, it is a significant escalation of the president's use of the military as a show of force against these protesters. It's really not clear, the last time Marines were deployed to help essentially with riot control, though it's unclear at this point just what their actual tasking will be. Typically, if they are deployed to these situations, it is expected that they will operate in much the same way that the National Guard does, doing things like perimeter security, maybe some crowd control. But the rules of engagement here, we are told, are still being finalized, and Defense Department lawyers are also looking at the kinds of rules of engagement these Marines will have as they encounter protesters possibly on the streets of Los Angeles. But again, this coming at a very, very tense moment with the governor of California suing the Trump administration over, of course, the deployment of the National Guard by President Trump against his will there in California.
Troops are in the streets of Los Angeles. Protests continue. ICE raids are underway across the country. There are growing calls for California to succeed. And at the NIH in Bethesda, Maryland, scientists are under fire. We are living through one of the darkest chapters in American history. And as they say in Eastern Europe, it can always get worse. But people are resisting, creating, refusing to back down. We've been preparing for this for years. And the question that always defines moments like this is the same. Will American soldiers fire on American citizens again, as they did in the Watts riots in Los Angeles in 1965, as they did on the campus of Kent State in 1970? Some will kill for Trump happily, but not all. And that matters. The military is fractured, especially after purges and the erasure of military heroes who happen to be Black. That division could be the fault line that cracks the regime. It's how the Romanian dictatorship fell. Plus, the Secretary of Defense is an idiot, and reports say that no one credible and good at their job wants to work for him. Do you think Whiskey Pete can hold us down? He can't even fill prestigious Pentagon jobs. As they say in Ukraine, we are lucky they're so stupid. What do we do now? We unleash our inner light and we blind the fascists. Art is central to resistance. Ukraine's Euromaidan wasn't just a protest, it was music, dance, murals, color, joy. That's how people survive tyranny. That's how we win. We are all artists now. Listen to these protesters in Los Angeles dancing in defiance of Trump's troops. CNN confirms ICE raids are happening alongside the troop deployment. People are calling this a dry run for a permanent crackdown because that's exactly what it is. This is what Project 2025 called for, a 900-page blueprint to establish a dictatorship. Some are already looking beyond resistance toward independence. California Governor Gavin Newsom, he's already rightfully threatened to withhold federal tax money, which he should do. California is the fourth largest economy in the world. Do you think it's going to go quietly accept military rule from a crackpot government it didn't elect? As we've warned on this show for years, rich blue states may soon push for referendums to become independent republics. That's dangerous, destabilizing, and yes, music to Putin's ears. But that's the corner we've been forced into. Succession is costly. It requires new security forces, new intelligence, new alliances. It's not easy, but more and more people are seriously discussing it. So what do we do now? The phrase American Nuremberg trials once sounded like dystopian fiction. Now it's a necessity. We must build the legal record for future accountability because justice will come. It always does. Every tyrant seems inevitable until they fall. If you're a lawyer, document everything. Save news stories before they're deleted. Gather witness accounts. Store records securely. This is how we prepare for international justice. We outnumber them, and they're afraid. That's why they send in the troops, because they are weak. I want to share my remarks from Monday's Gaslit Nation Salon, since it captures the grief and rage I know many of us are feeling. I want to just point out, because everyone across social media, across the political spectrum is debating what is the proper response to, as Tom Cotton called it in his infamous op-ed for the New York Times in 2020, send in the troops. What is the proper response when you're up against a militarized police force that is defending ICE, which is breaking the law by kidnapping people off the street, denying them their due process, and denying members of Congress, government officials, to be able to visit these immigration facilities, taxpayer-funded properties around the country? It wasn't just New Jersey. There's other cases of ICE refusing, obviously Los Angeles and New York State now, ICE refusing to let government officials in. That whole regulation, that oversight, was put in place in response to Donald Trump's first term, right? That was a law that was supposed to put some curbs on another Trump if another Trump were to come along, and now here we are. And so the extraordinary lawlessness of the Trump White House, I'm telling you, there's no reason, and I know people are divided on social media, and I have no doubt that our own chat group here at the salon is about to heat up with what comes next. I know that people among us here have different opinions on what the proper response is to what went down in Los Angeles. But the reality is, it doesn't matter what we do to a certain extent. Obviously, we're not going to become serial killers and hunt all these people down. We're not going to show up on their doorsteps with sledgehammers and AK-47s. Obviously, there's a limit. Standing your ground, refusing to back down, civil disobedience, non-violent resistance, right? Non-violent resistance isn't passive resistance. The reason why we read Martin Luther King Jr.'s brilliant memoir, Stride Toward Freedom, was to understand how militant nonviolent resistance is. So I know there's a lot of critiques that are out there, including from some well-meaning voices that are trying to say, like, don't get rowdy, guys. Don't set these, self-driving cars on fire. No Molotov cocktails. I understand all that. There's a lot of policing of behavior that's going on by our side, our coalition on social media. And then there's a lot of backlash against those critiques, right? And I just want to remind everyone to stay grounded in the fact that within the realm of possibility, in terms of what we saw go down this weekend, in terms of the protesters, their behavior, what they did, how everything transpired, it does not matter what we do. Even existing will get us criminalized, right? Even standing our ground and protesting will get us criminalized. Even voting is getting us criminalized in some respects. Even helping people vote by giving them water and food, by standing in line, is getting us criminalized, right? We're up against a fascist regime. It's just every single authoritarian expert looks at this and goes, America is a frog in a pot of boiling water, right? They're making it harder for us to vote. They're making it harder for us to even exist in some places, depending on who we are, what our identity is, how we present ourselves in the world, right? So I'm telling you, that police, that anxiety that people are having online, where some folks among us think that they can negotiate with a bad faith actor who just wants to play Rambo, you simply can't. And the disinformation merchants and the overworked, understaffed, oligarch-owned mainstream media will just say whatever the hell they're told to say or feel pressured to say anyway. So we simply can't win. And I just want to go on record for the historical record to say, I think all of those protesters in Los Angeles were extraordinarily heroic and very brave. And I get emotional thinking about how grateful I am to them for doing that. And it's just so strange to think like a lot of my awakening as a human being came from watching on live stream Euromaidan and Ukrainians doing that, right? And now I'm watching Americans do that. And there's a direct line from obviously Euromaidan to where we are, because Trump came to power with the Kremlin's help and with the Kremlin's response to invading Ukraine and going to war against all democracies. So it's just the latest chapter in the Star Wars universe we're all living in. And so yes, so that's what we have to remember. The people critiquing what those protesters did and how they did it. Look, no one can negotiate in good faith with a bad faith actor, right? There's no strategy that you can convince people of. We are all illegal, right? All of our rights, all of our dreams, all of our yearnings, all of our wildest hopes for our country and our democracy is all illegal under this regime. That's what we have to understand. This entire lawless government is a bad faith actor. You see that when that Australian news reporter with her microphone and pretty blonde hair, a fucking Barbie doll, right, is talking to the camera, and that dumb fuck cop from Super Troopers just shoots her. That guy just wanted to shoot something. And if it can be a pretty blonde girl that would never give him the time of day, even better. So you cannot negotiate in good faith with bad faith actors. So everybody just needs to show up, show up, show up, show up. And I think if you're feeling a certain way right now, I hope to God, if you take your grief, you take your anger, you take your rage, and you fucking plant something. You plant your fucking flag for the country you want to live in the ground, and you rally people around it, and you build something of meaning for all of us. You do something in defiance. You donate to the causes that we need right now. You donate to bail funds. You donate to immigration lawyers. You donate to the ACLU. You show up at a No Kings protest looking fabulous. Do your hair. Wear a crazy hat. It's like Democracy Prom Day this Saturday, June 14th. Trump is taking our taxpayer money and he is bringing in all of these tanks. You saw the footage of all those tanks, American tanks traveling on the railroad. That straight up looks like it's out of Russia. And now he's going to have a military parade and a show of force because the guy is a dictator. If you look at the article that I linked to, along with this Zoom link, the article is from the New Yorker, the oligarch in chief. It looks at the breathtaking scope of corruption. Don Jr. and South African oligarch David Sachs, who's the White House's AI czar and is mobbed up with Peter Thiel and Elon Musk, they started together a private club in Washington, D.C., where membership starts at $500,000. And they named this private club the executive branch, which means they are openly selling access to the White House. They throw parties right next to the White House, and for $500,000, you can hang out with cabinet members and their staff. This is the president's son openly selling access to his father. This is Russia. This is like a tacky, trashy version of Russia. Read this article in the New Yorker. It's very important. And the model it shows you, like the trajectory that we're on, is basically the Philippines. Like we're Marcos, Imelda Marcos level, right? The White House is about to be filled with Melania's shoe collection. It's that level. Eventually, the Marcoses had to flee abroad. The Philippines has been struggling ever since with these political dynasties and pay-to-play politics. So the damage is done. So even if we overcome this by some miracle, the damage is done because all of this is being normalized. And you have the Zuckerbergs and the Bezos who are also paying to play in a very big way, as the New Yorker article spells out. So you know all this because that's why you're here. And so all I can tell you is read books like The Gay Revolution, which is our book of the month for June 2025. And it reminds you that we've been here before. And the way we get out of it is by being defiant, joining together and being defiant. There's no other remedy. And so we do that day after day, and we find a way to get out of bed in the morning, and we don't allow their despair to slow us down and make us immobile. We have to keep in our minds, in our hearts, in our work, we have to keep moving. And if this helps anyone, what's helping me carry this load with all of you and spring out of bed every morning, ready to create, ready to shine bright, ready to defy them, and shaking off the despair and how they want to steamroll me with all of their constant corruption, disinformation, flooding the zone deliberately with shit so that I don't even know where to start or what to do. And I'm just overcome by confusion and horror and grief. So every day I get out of bed and this mantra comes to me, and I keep moving, I keep building, I keep creating, I keep doing everything that I feel needs to be done to stand bright and be defiant. And that mantra, I'm going to share it with you because it's helped me. Maybe it might help you if you need this. This is what I say to myself. I am life, and I am here to conquer the armies of death, because that's who they are. They are the armies of death, a bunch of little pathetic men who think they can just starve us out of existence. But we're not going to let them do that, because life is stubborn and life is defiant. And all of our legacies are going to live on long after we're gone in all these seeds of hope and change that we're planting together. And future generations are going to look back and be like, damn, those people fought when we needed them to fight. That's who we are, and that's what we're going to do together. Meanwhile, a quieter but just as dangerous purge is underway. The NIH is under siege. Long-term research grants are being abruptly canceled. Scientists are being blacklisted. As one listener from our Gaslit Nation salon on Monday put it, canceling the final year of a 5-year, $5 million grant doesn't save $1 million. It wastes $4 million already invested. Think about that. Fridges full of samples that took years to collect, trashed. Lifelong research paths destroyed overnight. This isn't budget tightening. It's a purge of our top thinkers, a political attack on our country's leading minds. And it's not just financial, it's ideological. Scientists are calling this what it is, a purge reminiscent of Stalinist and Nazi crackdowns. A letter of support for NIH staff resisting Jay Bhattacharya's crackdown is circulating. You can sign it at standupforscience.net. That's standupforscience.net. So this is what we do. We get louder, we support scientists, we fund the arts, we show up, and we refuse to be gaslit into thinking this is normal. Because here's what authoritarianism always gets wrong. It underestimates the people. Their arrogance is our friend. One listener in our salon on Monday shared Mickey Blanco's performance of Zoe Leonard's 1992 poem, I Want a Dyke for President. It's raw, unflinching, and speaks directly to this moment.
I want a person with AIDS for president, and I want a fag for a vice president. And I want someone with no health insurance. And I want someone who grew up in a place where the earth is so saturated with toxic waste that they didn't have a choice about getting leukemia. I want a president that had an abortion at 16. And I want a candidate who isn't the lesser of two evils. And I want a president who lost their last lever to AIDS, who still sees that in their eyes every time they lay down to rest, who held their liver in their arms and knew they were dying. I want a president who stood in line at the clinic, at the DMV, at the welfare office, who's been unemployed and played off, and sexually harassed, and gay bashed, and deported. I want someone who has spent the night in the tombs, and had a cross burned on their lawn, and survived rape. I want someone who has been in love and been hurt, who respects sex, who has made mistakes and learned from them. I want a black woman for president. I want someone with bad teeth. Someone who's eaten hospital food. Someone who cross-dresses and has done drugs and been in therapy. I want someone who's committed civil disobedience. And I want to know why we started learning somewhere down the line that a president is always a clown. Always a John, never a hooker. Always a boss, never a worker. Always a thief and never caught.
If you haven't seen it, do yourself a favor and watch it now. We'll link to it in the show notes. For this week's bonus show, available for our supporters at the Truth Teller level and higher, we continue our conversation with South African conservationist and Ukrainian democracy defender Lionel DeLange. In this conversation, we're going to be discussing the Angolan War, a little-known hot war of the Cold War in Africa, and Lionel's practical wisdom on how to shoot down a drone. To hear this full episode and to get all shows ad-free, invites to exclusive events, and more, be sure to sign up at patreon.com/gaslit. That's patreon.com/gaslit. Discounted annual memberships are available, and you can give the gift of membership. Thank you to everyone who supports the show. We could not make Gaslit Nation without you. Now here's Lionel.